they are enough, and we've listened to them, and we will value them.
Oh, that touched me in the heart a bit. Oh.
You're crying.
I'm welled up a little bit. Oh. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with your local queers, Arlo and
Rosie. It took me so long.
fill in the blank.
It took me so long to register what was going on. So today we're reacting to the conversion therapy ban. Everybody remember that hot topic? Yeah. Does it get any better? Let's find out.
Last time we had beer with a queer. Today we have food in a mood.
Are you in a mood?
I will be probably after watching this.
Yeah, fair. I'm hot.
Yeah, you are. Let's begin. So this is so I'm time stamping us starting at 6:33 p.m. I'll timestamp once we've finished. I think it's just going to be very interesting to see how long it's actually taken us. These trans people definitely don't deserve this.
Order.
Someone's just opened a bag of sweets in the back. Honestly, I can't blame them. When you get hungry, you get hungry. You're not you when you're hungry. I certainly would be angry.
But is it too early to open the crisps?
Get in the Harry mouth.
There's no doubt that trans issues have caused something of a polarisation in the UK, with threats, intimidation, and even violence being directed from both sides of the debate to the other.
It's funny, it's almost like people use threats, violence and intimidation when they're trying to deny people literal human rights.
Miss out on the meeting I got at 5 o'clock for the whole of my constituency.
Sorry, can't do the whole thing. I've got a call at 5. Bye.
Can we hurry up?
Don't turn up then, Robert, or whoever you are. He's definitely not on our side. I can already tell you that.
But I think it would be helpful for the purposes of today's debate to narrow down exactly what it is that the petition is asking for and indeed what this debate is all about. To be crystal clear, this debate today is not about reforming the Gender Recognition Act, nor is it about access to single-sex spaces, trans women in sport, trans women in prisons, or any of the other issues that have caused such a stir in this place, in the media, in academia, and beyond. This debate and this petition is specifically about the harmful practices of so-called conversion therapy and whether we think, as a house and as a country, we think it's acceptable for anyone, regardless of who they are, to be subjected to such things with no recourse to justice.
I'm so glad he's outlined that actually we're just talking about conversion therapy, because obviously the non-binary debate, as we literally saw, they threw in every other transphobic argument under the sun that was not related to that at all.
I'll gladly give way.
Does my honourable member, a friend, agree?
There is no!
In place to cover all these abhorrent practices that he talks about, and this will only actually create a problem with freedom of speech, that people will be able to talk to their individual children themselves about the way they feel about themselves.
Pipe down!
I genuinely have come to this debate to learn about the issues. I thought the most important word he just uttered was the word forced. I think everybody could agree that no one should be forced into any sort of therapy. The question is, would you be banning people from seeking such therapy if, for whatever unaccountable reason, they wish to do so? That's where a line needs to be clarified.
So he's there to learn, great. And I think, yes, I do think, we said this though, there's people that do seek out conversion therapy, they're seeking it out because of a religion.
Yeah, so people that are going to seek out conversion therapy will be seeking it out because of shame induced by family, society, religion. Nobody, you didn't come out to me and go, I think I'd like to undergo conversion therapy to not be trans. Do you know what I mean? Very rarely, I think, does the average... In fact, I would say I don't think it is possible that the average person who's not kind of being driven by a force of shame would seek out conversion therapy. And then also, if it doesn't work, right, if we've proven that conversion therapy doesn't work, then allowing people to seek it out and spend money on it is fraudulent anyway.
But also, if you do want to seek out some sort of therapy for your identity, you can go to normal therapy and speak through those feelings.
As we know.
Yes.
Chris, if you're watching, hi.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for that intervention. Indeed, there is a consent clause within the bill. Now, that is an entirely separate debate. I know there's many colleagues on both sides of the House who don't agree with that, and I'm grateful to the honourable lady for
God, no wonder it takes so long, and every single time he has to say, I'm grateful to the honourable.
And also, he hasn't finished a full sentence yet without going, excuse me, can I give way? And he's like, yes, you can give way. Like, it's, excuse me, can I give way? Yes, you can give way. Thank you for letting me give way. Yes, I'll let the honourable lady give way. Thank you for letting me give way. Oh, I'm grateful for the honourable lady. Yes, I do. Like, that takes up 2 hours. The debate's only 46 minutes long.
There is the people who undergo this therapy, and this comes back to the argument about consent, is that can you actually consent to having harm done upon to yourself, even if you have all the facts? Well, obviously, for me, the answer is no.
This debate is almost, should we legalise torture even if people ask to be tortured? Like, it's one of those where I'm like, why are we here? Like, why is it being debated? Surely the answer is just yes.
Calling me so early in the debate. It was a privilege to listen to the member for Carshalton and Wallington in describing what needs to be a debate where we dial down the hate and we dial up the understanding. I'm here to speak on behalf of the trans and non-binary friends and their allies in Plymouth, 482 of which have signed this petition. I'm proud to be Plymouth's first ever out Member of Parliament, and I take that responsibility seriously to provide a voice for LGBTQ plus people, to call out hate and extremism, and to proudly say, love is love, whoever you are. I've spoken in this place before about my view on trans people, and so, Graham, we may be in a debate, but trans people are not up for debate.
I'm proud.
I like Luke.
I'm very proud because for those who don't know, we used to live in Plymouth and he used to be our MP. I feel warm and fuzzy thus far.
Me too.
On the non-binary debate thing, in their response to the initial thing before they debated, they said, we value the lives and experiences of trans and non-binary people. It's like, but you don't. Otherwise, this wouldn't even be a discussion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Should go with that existence. So my view on this one is clear. Trans men are men, trans women are women, and being non-binary is valid. But in that space, we need to educate and inform, not just hit each other over the head with sticks. And it is important that we conduct that debate in that way. I think it's very welcome that at long last we have proposals to ban conversion therapy for lesbian, gay and bisexual people. This is a huge victory. It is a result of an awful lot of work, and I'm grateful to the campaigners from Stonewall, Mind Out, the LGBT Foundation and many others for their tireless work on making the positive case of how stopping this harm to people will make a positive difference to society. This legislation has taken too long to come forward, but it's better late than never. Conversion therapy is abuse, and it is because it is cruel and abhorrent that young lesbian, gay and bisexual people are facing the cruelty, humiliation and violence that comes from conversion therapy, and it's right that that is banned. But if we are banning it because we think those practices are vile, we need to ban it for everybody, not making that artificial distinction between it. In the spirit of generosity that I'm trying to advocate, I think it is important that we make the case that everyone, regardless of who they are and who they fall in love with, should enjoy protections. And that is what the value, that is a British value that our schools are. The loophole that the member who introduced this debate spoke about, which creates a backdoor if trans and non-binary people are excluded from this ban, is not a backdoor, it's a trapdoor. It's a trapdoor through which young LGB people will be pushed.
What the honourable gentleman said earlier is that there's an intersectionality, like...
on this, because intersectionality exists. You can both be trans and a lesbian. You can both be trans and bisexual. And that intersectionality creates a grey zone in the law that if the trans exclusionary ban for trans and non-binary people are allowed to be excluded from this, we will see more people fall into that. And that is not right. I'm going to keep going if I can just for one moment.
Good on you. Tell them.
So, Graham, when I was a closeted teenager, there wasn't an awful lot of LGBT role models in society. There are no professional footballers, there are no Olympic athletes. They are now. We have visibility in our society now, and I'm so pleased with all my heart that young people in school now not only have LGBT people in the public eye, that they can see them on screen as well. And some of you will know that I'm an unapologetic fan of Netflix Heartstopper, and I remember being both Nick and Charlie at school. But for me, it's Yasmin Finney, who plays Elle in the show, who is not only epic in her acting, but the class and visibility of her as a trans actor and her transfer to the Doctor Who universe has not only inspired me, it's inspired young trans people across the world, and it has saved lives. That visibility, that legitimacy has saved lives. And I think it's in that world that, as Alice Osman has written in Heartstopper, where our diversity is celebrated, not excluded, where people are drawn together by a broad hug, not with a big stick, that we should be aiming for in this legislation. It's precisely because of that I think I would like every single member in this place to know that the message should go out to young LGBT people that regardless of who you are and who you love, you have the right to be loved, you have the right to be safe, and you have the right to be valued, not just by society, but in the law as well. And that is the heart of what we're debating today. Let's make sure that we say to young LGBT people, trans and non-binary, that they are enough, and we've listened to them and we will value them.
Oh, that touched me in the heart a bit. Oh.
You're crying.
I'm welled up a little bit. No. Why can't they all be that nice?
The only problem I have is, right, so I am too short-tempered to do what Luke Pollard does and address a room of transphobes and try and get them on the side. I personally would just go in there with a big stick. Like, I would be in there with a machete. I'd be like, agree or die.
For legal reasons, Rosie is not going to go to the Houses of Parliament with a machete.
But I really appreciate when people specifically go out of their way to mention non-binary people as well, because so often people just say trans and assume that non-binary falls under that umbrella.
For me it does, but not for every non-binary person do they feel like they fall under the trans umbrella, and that's fine.
But also, sometimes I think when people say trans people, they're thinking of trans men and trans women.
Binary.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas when non-binary people are also specifically mentioned, it really warms my heart. We stand Luke Pollard.
Because I don't think we should be here. This should not be something we are having to debate, and I am furious. But my fury is nothing compared to the deep-set harm that this announcement has already caused to the transgender community. They have been harmed by us saying that they do not deserve the same rights and protections as their LGB brothers and sisters. This ban is about preventing those who use so-called therapy as a smokescreen for their homophobic and transphobic exorcisms, who claim that LGBTQ plus people do not deserve to love, be loved, or live their lives as they truly are. Conversion therapy often takes the form of one-directional talking therapies conducted by quacks.
What's a quack? I've got a quick joke.
No.
Why do ducks have tails?
Quack.
To cover up their butt quacks. You liked it though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I really liked it. If you'd said it properly.
The government does not propose that the ban would define gender identity in legislation, noting the fact we already have the Gender Recognition Act and hate crime legislation that acknowledges transgender people, and nor are LGBT
non-binary people. There's a loophole to not get through conversion therapy though as a trans person.
Be non-binary?
No. Be non-binary but not fall under the trans umbrella. Looped.
Such a good debate on this. One of the concerns that many people have wrote to me about this is that the fact if a young person comes to them and thinks that
many people have wrote to me about this, I think is bullshit.
I dislike this man!
I can't believe he's here.
Why is he back?
Many people have wrote to me about this is that the fact if a young person comes to them and thinks that that they are trans, people are scared to go, well, why don't you just watch and wait? Why don't you just watch and wait? Let's have 6 months. Let's see how you feel in a year's time. Let's feel how you.
No, that's not what you told parents to do. You told them to stand strong and leave our kids alone.
Saying can we just watch and wait and leave it 6 months has got nothing to do with conversion therapy. You know? Again, this goes back to the fact that people aren't like transitioning within 6 months. Fucking hell, if you're on the waiting list in 6 months, even on the waiting list.
See how you feel in 2 years' time. People are going to be scared of saying that because they do not want to be penalised or caused transphobic, for one thing, or prosecuted under any legislation that may come later on.
I think.
What? Sorry. I was meant to say this. He's now rolled his eyes twice. When initially if someone comes to you and thinks, you know, they might be trans, and then transphobic, I'm like, why? Is the knife cutting a bit deep?
Would be really interested to see what county he's for. If he's for Cheshire, I am going to find out where you live and I am going to come with the machete.
There.
Can you imagine? I'm getting the machete. For legal I'm joking. Also, I feel like he has a fundamental misunderstanding of what conversion therapy is. Mm-hmm. Conversion therapy is trying to not make you trans, not just being like,
see how you feel.
Saying, see how you feel.
But I saw how I felt for
ages.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it took me 4 years to come out publicly.
I know, again.
Because I was seeing how I felt.
And I think that to be able to do that as a parent, to be able to do that as a teacher, to be able to do that as a man of the cloth, or any different things.
Man of the cloth.
That's all I want to be able to do. Watch, wait, why? I mean, that's where I'm trying to come from.
Oh, and there is a world of difference between seeking advice and having an honest conversation and the quackery and harm that is being perpetrated by people who set themselves up in businesses doing this stuff.
Fraudulent or ignorant pretender to medical skill.
Ah, so it's a real word.
A person who pretends professionally or publicly to have skill, knowledge or credentials that they do not possess. For example, a person who probably inflicts conversion therapy and harm on
says
somebody.
They're a licensed therapist.
Or doesn't say that they're a licensed, but don't say that they're not.
Yeah.
And they're like, I know best because I do.
But also,
I'm glad we know that now.
My hot take is, I feel like there's quite a world of difference between, hello, I would like to come to therapy to explore my identity, and your therapist goes, okay, and going, hello, I would like to come to therapy to explore my identity, and your therapist goes, I will make you cisgender.
Beginning way, could he correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of the waiting to see point, is it not right that it's currently at least 2 years to wait to have those conversations with a professional?
I wish it was 2 years. Jesus Christ, I'd be 4 years in. I'd have my first and second appointment. I probably would have had surgery by now on the NHS.
Yeah, you probably want tea on the NHS as well. Spoiler alert.
With a professional, so there is no rushing into this. And I may be wrong, but you cannot have surgery to your body if you are under 18, let alone get access to puberty blockers for at least a couple of years. So in terms of this rushing, I may be misunderstanding the timelines if you can advise me otherwise.
You're not loved. Don't downplay your intelligence.
Potential exclusion of trans people from a conversion therapy ban would imply that they don't count. Well, Sir Graham, trans people matter to me. Trans people matter to me as a member of the LGBTQ community myself, and trans people matter to me as members of my family. And trans people matter to me as members of the community I represent.
Not just to
people in Darlington who signed this petition.
We'll stop watching films, we'll just start watching these.
This debate is...
This is why it takes so long. It's like, shout out to my mum, shout out to me now.
I think he's on our side. Let's not,
I'm here to take the piss out of all politicians. No, that makes me sound like I'm not racist. I hate everyone. I'm not. I do hate all politicians. Maybe this is why I would be a terrible politician, but I would not be able to stand up and say, I understand there are real concerns. I understand there are problems in other areas surrounding trans people. I'd just stand up and I'd just be like, are you a transphobe then? Yes, you are. Go fuck yourself. Legislation passed. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this.
I know that the Minister is a good man and a strong member and ally of the LGBT community. And I know that he will be listening very closely.
You're brown-nosing now.
A little bit.
To Section 28 many years ago, too many...
Dinner menu.
Are they giving out, like, exam results? Has she just taken her GCSE?
You know what I'm saying? This is the menu for tonight's dinner. Tell you what, when you're so marginalised, I say so marginalised, we're we do have positions of privilege, but when you're marginalised, you have to laugh, otherwise you cry.
Well, and I also do feel very privileged because I know I will never be subjected to conversion therapy.
So we look at it from an outside in.
Under the Prime Minister, the strategy of this government is to harness prejudice and stoke a culture war, pitting communities like this against each other. The fact that the Tories are undermining trans rights is not surprising.
No, it's not.
If the party opposite had a party motto, it would probably be, never let basic humanity get in the way of a potential vote winner.
Oh!
You heard the Tories go, "Ooh."
I fucking stan her. Don't know who she is. Love her. Whoever you are.
I think it's also worth noting that the term trans can mean any number of things, from declaring yourself non-binary to wanting to go the whole journey of medical and surgical transition. And this is where I think the therapeutic care pathways are so important, because
I'm glad she's on our side, but I'm not half trans.
Oh, and also I think she does make a good point at that they've sorry, I'm getting tired now. I've had enough. We're only an hour in.
I think they do take a lot. Her chicken's being cooked.
Thank God, I'm knackered.
but for others it can be a symptom of something else. This is not a straightforward condition that has the same pathology in all people.
Being trans is also not a condition.
A generation of trans men who have desisted, who will now have...
Does she mean detransitioned?
I don't really know. I don't really know what desist means.
Loss of sexual function, permanent, facial hair, male pattern baldness.
Here we go again.
She's now talking about the Kira Bell case.
Is it?
Yes, because Kira Bell was a trans man and then detransitioned, but was also with the Tavistock Clinic, who put her on puberty blockers, and obviously went on to have hormones and I think top surgery, but has since detransitioned, and then went to the government and the NHS and the trust saying we can't give kids puberty blockers. So that's why they were put on hold for a couple of years.
For every single thing that happens in the world, there will be a proportion of people for whom it does not work, right?
See our last video on boob jobs, BBLs, flip fillers.
Yeah, so there is always a proportion of people that regret doing anything.
I regret my bob haircut.
We don't say some people die in car accidents, therefore we should not have cars. So why are we saying this one person has regretted transition and made it high profile, therefore we should stop anyone from accessing puberty blockers? It's usually like it has to be put on a scale. Cars, supposedly, I mean in terms of the environment, no, but benefit the planet more than outweigh the people that die in them. Puberty blockers benefit more people than they harm. But we're willing, on this one case, to kill millions of trans kids, and on the basis that this one person regrets their transition.
A separate tangent now, but the Kira Bell case is like, she didn't walk into there and go, I'm trans, and they went, here's puberty blockers. There would have been a few sessions before that where she would have had to convince them of her transness. Like, it's not as if they've gone, oh my god, here. It's not like conversion therapy, but the other way.
Yeah, if they dragged her in off the street and then gone, there you go.
Like, that's what baffles me about that case.
The sun is setting, even in summer.
By the government's own admission, NHS Gender Identity Services will not stop people having exploratory conversation with their doctors. Legal services will not...
No, they won't stop us having explorative conversations with our doctors, so our GPs. But our GPs don't know anything about it, or refuse to help our care.
I know, so you have to go private anyway.
Like, when I was referring myself to the Laurels in Exeter, he had no idea what he was doing. I had to be clued up with what he needed to do as a GP. to even send my referral off, and I don't think they've got the correct referral. I also had to fill out the form with him.
Because he didn't know what to do.
No, and he misgendered me the whole time.
Just shit show, innit? Absolute shit show.
Leader on LGBT rights, but it seems this government has forgotten what the letter T stands for.
Oh, also, the UK is not a global leader on LGBT rights.
No, the fact that they wanted to coin that baffles me.
I also think it's funny that they passed it in Northern Ireland and nobody thought they needed to specifically not include trans people, but in the UK they were like, no, not for trans people.
And I hope that one day basic rights for trans people will no longer be the subject of debate. Trans people shouldn't be used as a political football. This government could show that it is on the side of the LGBT community by banning these practices, but it refuses. Instead, it would rather light up buildings with rainbows than make any meaningful change.
Yeah, we'll just slap a rainbow. We'll just slap a rainbow in wherever, and then that'll sort it.
So let me be absolutely clear. There is no LGB without the T.
Woohoo!
In solidarity with the LGBT community and their right to be who...
I bet Tigger would have more rights.
I think you're right. I think Tigger would have more rights than trans people in the UK.
Tigger would be able to go for voice therapy to, you know, explore his woohoo! Tigger would be able to go to physiotherapy
for his bouncy
for his
tail.
oopty-loopty bounce, you know? But what can trans people get?
Fuck
Nothing!
In the past year, Canada, France and New Zealand have all made the decision to ban trans conversion therapy. Scotland will shortly do so as well, I'm proud to say.
Here at the back in the middle, who keeps raising his papers, is desperate to talk.
I know.
I feel like he's a Tory.
Again, I'm like, why are we here? Like, why are we here?
We've hardly, thankfully, in a backwards way, not really heard any against.
But are they hiding?
Thank you. Can I call Dame Nye Griffith and add my congratulations to her inclusion in Her Majesty's Birthday's Honours list?
Objection, Your Honour. Irrelevance. Here's your card. Congrats. Here's a bunch of flowers.
Why has that been brought up?
Other countries, as has been mentioned, New Zealand, Canada, France, have recently introduced trans-inclusive legislation. And of course, it is perfectly possible to draft appropriate wording. So now it is high time.
Surely, if the UK government can't be bothered, right, they'll just go, hey, Canada, could you just Command C, Command V it?
I think they literally can. This is why when they say it's too complex, it's just such a bullshit cop-out.
Hummed and hawed, as we would say, about taking part in this debate, because what people have seen as being the trans debate has become incredibly toxic. And I think, for me, some of the most marginalised, most vulnerable people on the face of this planet have sadly been used as a political football. And we've seen elements of that today. So I want to try and bring to this debate a bit of a focus on faith and how I approach this subject. Because, as many people have already outlined, it is actually the vast majority of conversion therapy takes place in religious settlements, and for that I am deeply sorry and incredibly embarrassed. I think it is absolutely appalling and would condemn it in every form.
It's not your fault.
I quite appreciate, though, that he, as a man from the church, is coming in and saying, it's not in the blood, fuck it. Who thinks it's in the NHS?
People are like, oh, well, it's the religion. Well, we've been guilty of it. It's people of religion that are forcing these people to go into conversion therapy, and he is a religious man. I can only assume,
yeah,
with a faith of some sort, and he's like, why would I?
Yeah,
why would I put that on somebody if I've been told by my God that, you know, do no harm.
I appreciate that he's standing up and owning the fact that conversion therapy takes place predominantly in churches, and that
religious settings.
Yeah, and that still means it's not okay.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Thanks, mate. 48 minutes to go. We got this.
We will also hang our heads in shame as trans people's treatments at trans people's treatment in decades to come. It's also deeply worrying, Mr Mundell, that even for sexual orientation, the ban only covers under 18s.
I did not know that.
So the ban includes people under 18?
No.
Or does not include people under 18?
So the ban is for only people under 18, because at 18 you should be able to consent to therapy if you want to, despite the fact that you obviously can be forced or coerced to consent by others. Oh my motherfucking God. And we've only just brought that up, and we're basically at the end.
2 hours, 4 minutes and 12 seconds in.
We're basically at the end, and only now has it just been brought up that actually it's for under 18s only, because once you're 18 you can consent to therapy. Why are we having this debate? Of course you shouldn't be subjecting 16-year-old trans kids to therapy. Oh my God.
I feel like it makes it so much worse.
The fact that the guy at the beginning was arguing for it, he wasn't arguing for trans adults that can consent.
Oh, Mr. Man from Non-Binary.
Yeah.
He was leave our kids alone.
Yeah.
Which, that makes complete sense now.
I know, but he wasn't arguing that trans adults,
like people like me,
should be allowed to access it. He was arguing that trans children should. I'm shaken. What? Honestly, that's fucking blown my mind. I'm going to struggle to sleep tonight.
I wonder how many people are aware of that.
Because we weren't. How many people like us will have nearly given up halfway through? Me nearly given up. Go back, just so we can get the whole sentence again.
At how gay people were treated in decades gone by, we will also hang our heads in shame as trans people's treatment in decades to come. It's also deeply worrying, Mr Mundell, that even for sexual orientation, the ban only covers under 18s. So that means that adults can consent to non-physical forms of conversion practices.
Yeah, so the ban for queer people as well,
so the LGB,
still only covers under 18s. So they're not even really banning conversion therapy. They're just banning conversion therapy for children. I just don't understand. So they've called it abhorrent, they've called it abusive, they've called it torture, and the legislation says, oh, but if you're over 18, you can consent to those things. That is insane.
Whether you are consenting or are still being forced doesn't matter.
No, I agree. Like if it's being, that has really thrown me. I'm blindsided by that. So in theory, right, say you came out to me, obviously when you were about 18, and I said, I am not having you be a trans person. I would like you to go to conversion therapy. Otherwise I'll split up with you, I'll do these horrible things to you, I'll turn your family against you, blah, blah, blah. You toddle over to conversion therapy, and they say, oh, well, you're 18, so yep, you can consent to that. Oh, that's insane. That's insane.
Sorry, we had to change SD cards. We've gone through 64 gig, but we're almost there.
And also, we've just had the conversation as we changed the SD card, that the fact that so many people have even, sat down to bother to debate about children undergoing conversion therapy. It's not even adults, it's just children, is insane to me. The fact that the government would even propose that. You know, when you learn something and it's bad, and then you look into it more and it's much, much worse, and you're like, oh.
And how did we get to this place? We did have a commitment from the UK government that they would ban conversion therapy, but then in April this year, with a series of quite extraordinary U-turns, they firstly said they planned to drop the ban, to legislate, they planned to drop their plan to ban to legislate conversion therapy, and then they correctly and predictably U-turned on that after there was a significant outcry, including from a number of people on the Conservative benches. But the U-turn was only partial, and I have to say it's inexplicable to me that we would suggest somehow that it's okay to ban conversion therapy and miss out.
Oh yeah, I forget that they were like, actually we're not banning conversion therapy for anyone, and they were like, oh yeah we are, but it's not trans people, and yet we're still only talking about under 18s.
There is no justification for a ban, and religion is not a justification for a gap in the ban, and religion is not a justification for a gap in the ban.
Did you just say that 3 times?
Yes, but a very fair point. We don't use religion for a justification anywhere else. Like, well, they try to, actually. But you don't say, oh, I know I ran over that man with my car, but I am Christian. Sorry I raped a child, but I am a priest.
And the policy process on this has been chaotic. On the 30th of March, the Minister told the House that the government was taking forward plans to ban conversion therapy in all its forms on an urgent basis. Just 1 day later, the news broke that the Prime Minister intended to ditch plans to ban all forms of conversion therapy.
The UK government changed their minds more than me.
And you change your mind a lot.
I am horrific.
And then, 1 day after that, the government had to U-turn on that intention.
So in the space of 3 days, they went, yeah, we're doing it for everyone. Actually, no, we're not doing it at all. To, yes, we're doing it, but only for LGBT people.
I can't believe that. That is so chaotic. Did they literally just roll the dice to see what they were deciding that day? And they went, a 3, that means a partial ban.
Not just a powerful, but actually a very thoughtful speech. And actually a speech that he could have made from this position in this room. Perhaps one day. It saddens me that we have yet to achieve consensus on many of the more thorny or heated topics that people disagree on or choose to misunderstand.
Love that wording, choose to misunderstand.
I was literally just about to say the exact same thing.
Aren't we on the same wavelength?
Ooh. Are you stupid or are you choosing to misunderstand?
Yeah, that's now in there forever.
The trans community are not some invisible, amorphous blob that people cannot...
I feel like a blob.
But people do tend to like talk about trans people as if you're not sitting right there.
Yeah.
Like,
or I'm gonna watch this or hear this or read it or
like the trans community, the trans agenda. I'm like, no, trans people are other human beings. They aren't some kind of like mythical force. I'm just still so confused that obviously the UK government sat down and went, people shouldn't be allowed to try to be converted to a different sexuality, should they? And they all went, no, what do you think about a different gender? Oh no, that one's fine. Do you know what I mean?
But in terms of how affirmative therapy should be performed, that is legitimate. But again, it is achieving clarity so that people are not caught and be made to feel that they have practiced conversion therapy by simply being a good therapist or being a good clinician.
If you're accusing your therapist of doing conversion therapy, they probably were doing a little bit of conversion therapy. You don't just say like, I think you're trying to convert me.
But it's exactly the same as am I trans? If you have to think about it, you probably are.
Yeah.
If you have to pose the question,
I wonder if my therapist is trying to do conversion therapy on me. They probably are. Or at least they're just being mean. And you should definitely get another therapist. Concluding thoughts? Can't believe it's only for under 18s.
So there's that. But there's also... There was clearly... So this was supposed to be a reaction to the against side. To which there were very few people. There was our honourable member of Don Valley, right? And maybe Blue Coat Lady. I'm quite pleased that this volume of people
have even bothered to turn up.
Have turned up and kind of fought for our rights and trans people's rights. But it infuriates me that amount of people have turned up for including trans people and so few turned up for against including trans people. That why isn't it just happening? Clearly the proof is there with that turnout. Although, like, he had to go for his lunch at 5 p.m, you know, he was still there. So, Thank you very much for watching our second reaction video.
How long is it taking us?
So we started at 6:33, I believe. It is now 2 minutes past 10. So it's taken us 3.5 hours.
In fairness, the debate was 2 hours 46.
Yes.
So we've not doubled our time.
No. But thank you very much for watching. It's gone from light to dusk.
I mean, it's like almost dark.
We're off to bed. And hopefully there's another debate soon. We enjoy these, but we will start it sooner in the day.
Oh my god, we'll start at like 9 a.m.
Hi guys, it's Editing Rosie and Arlo here. We didn't finish that video, as in like we didn't round it off, so we're going to give you quite a concise conclusion now, hopefully.
We have only just watched the first edit, and we hope you find us as funny as we found us.
We have literally just wet ourselves on the sofa laughing at ourselves.
Specifically around the 37.5-minute mark when we go,
ooh. I don't have any concluding thoughts on the debate, apart from what's already been said, and we should ban conversion therapy for everyone, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of sexuality. So there we go. So if you enjoyed that, please like, comment and subscribe.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Splodge Store.
Should we just recreate our final moment one more time? Ooh. I'm just back. Oh.
Bye!